Welcome to this week's edition of the OCU Athletics Update. I'm Andrew Himes. And this week we're talking to Superstar Athlete of the Week, Blerta Rashica, and women's basketball coach, Rob Edmisson. Here on the OCU Athletics Update, we're talking to Superstar Athlete of the Week, Blerta Rashica. She scored 4 goals against Wayland Baptist and was named the conference Offensive Player of the Week. And talk about that performance against Wayland Baptist. She scored 4 goals in that game.
Yeah, we started really good, but something happened, like those 20 last minutes. We kind of got slow, but we picked it up and did a good performance in the end.
That was your second multi-goal game of the season. What do you feel like goes into that, scoring more than 1 goal in a game? You just seem to build them up in bunches.
I don't really know. It just, I don't know, probably gives you a really good confidence, and you just keep doing it. Makes you feel good, relaxed. I don't know, really.
Now, you came here from Sweden. How did you decide to come to OCU?
Yeah, I needed a change. I liked the environment I was in, but I was in that team. I was playing for almost 5 or 6 years. And then after high school, I just decided I needed to move and do something else. Needed a big change in my life.
And what's your major?
Kinesiology.
And what do you want to do with that after school is over?
I think for right now, I want to do sports psychologist, but I'm not really sure yet.
Can you tell us something about yourself that people may not necessarily know?
I used to play for PSN Hagen, which is the U.S. national coach. She was one of my old coaches, which is kind of cool.
All right.
Something to brag about. Sorry.
We've been talking to Superstar Athlete of the Week, Blerta Rashica. You can keep up with her and the OCU soccer team on OCUsports.com.
There's a call to be answered. The spirit of competition is still alive inside. The desire still drives. The phrase student athlete has a great ring to it. Lasting friendships are ready to be made. You just want to keep playing. Game on. Learn more at NAIA.org.
Here on the OCU Athletics Update, we're talking to women's basketball coach Rob Edmisson. The Stars are picked 3rd in the nation and picked to win the Sooner Athletic Conference this year. And Coach, you got 6 seniors on your team. What kind of edge do you think that'll give you?
Well, in most situations, when you see 6 seniors on a roster, you think that's a lot of continuity. But 3 of our seniors are one-year transfer kids that just got here in August. So it's going to be about blending one-year kids with returning kids. And then sometimes that's a challenge when someone transfers in their senior year. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to get on pace with what we do, and you don't have a lot of time to do it. But all 3 of those players are very experienced veteran players that have played at a high level. So from a talent standpoint, transition will be easy for them. From a cohesiveness and team chemistry situation, that's something that we're working on daily. But we do have 6 kids. It is an older team year-wise, and hopefully that will translate to also floor maturity.
Right off the bat, you've got 2 NCAA tournament teams in an exhibition play, including the defending national champion Texas A&M, and then you've got a tournament out in Shawnee where you play 2nd-ranked Union. What kind of challenges is that, and what do you think that'll do to help your team down the line?
Well, I think it's a positive. I mean, obviously, the exhibition games against Kansas State and Texas A&M, defending national champs, are games that allow you to measure, does your team have a competitive spirit, a competitive level? I mean, obviously, those are games that we're huge underdogs, but we've played 3 or 4 of those games now and almost pulled upsets in several of those. So our kids go with the mindset that we're not going just to get the paycheck that comes with it. We're going to play to try to win, and we will give them harder games than they want. I can guarantee you that. But it does allow our kids to have an understanding of where our weaknesses are going to be. It's teams like that that can expose you. You can play a schedule where teams can't expose you because you're just more talented, and so it hides your weaknesses. We'll know after week 1 where our weaknesses are at, what we need to work on. And then obviously playing Union, who's won national championships like we have, and every year Union and us are in the top 3 or 4 in the country. It's a game that will allow us to measure, okay, early in the season, where do we got to go to get to where we want to be in March when we run, hopefully, in them in Frankfort, Kentucky.
How about in the Sooner Athletic Conference? What are your toughest games going to be in conference play this year?
Well, I think it'd be Southern Nazarene. I was a little bit surprised they weren't picked first in the conference, just from a standpoint that they did not lose a single player off their roster last year. And I know they've picked up 1 or 2 decent transfers. So I was a little surprised. Our picking's probably a lot to do more with tradition and respect, because we've won 8 out of the last 12 conference regular season titles and conference tournament championships. So that says something about our program. Being picked there and finishing there are 2 different things. I think people look at who we return and who we brought in, and they naturally think that will all just flow together magically, but it does take a lot of work. And this year's team, well, it'll be a challenge. I mean, one of the things that we're working on every day is team chemistry, and putting talented players together is sometimes a challenge. Every kid on our team at some point was the best player at their school or their 4-year school before they transferred in. And so getting people to share their toys a little bit sometimes more challenge with the more talent you have.
You got 4 players coming back with starting experience on your team. You got All-American Lauren Gober, along with Taylor Booz, Desiree Jeffries, and Tiffany Goldwire, to go along with players like Emily Davis, who's coming back as well. Talk about your returning players.
Well, we've got a great returning nucleus, and not just in terms of basketball, but they're just good kids. They're good people. Those kids all have GPAs anywhere between 3.3 and 3.6 last year. So our returning GPA of our returners last semester was about 3.5. So they're good student athletes. They have an understanding of our program. They are kids that are receptive to when we bring in new kids. And like I said, the 3 kids we brought in are all talented kids. So it takes a very mature group to be receptive when new kids come in that could challenge them for their playing time and their starting spots. And thus is the key is, do you get them all blended together and fighting for the common goal. But those returnees are probably the best returning class I've had, just in terms of not only basketball, but just they're good kids.
Talk about the players you brought in. You brought in a player who was a starter at UTEP as a 4-year school, a conference player of the year, and then a player from the Big 12, a player from Kansas. Talk about your new players. Yeah,
those 3 newcomers are all kids that have accolades. You know, Deidre Caldwell was a Conference USA Player of the Year at one point in her career as a freshman, newcomer of the year in that conference. Led the conference in 3-point mades her junior year. Started all 3 years, so she's a veteran player. Nicolette Smith, her sophomore year at Kansas, started 31 out of 34 games as a sophomore. I think 2 or 3 times was named Big 12 Conference Player of the Week. Gives us a size 6'2" kid that can shoot the ball as well from 3-point line as anybody on our team, but also can post up. So, and then Felicia Kelly, who's from the Bahamas, that transferred and was the MVP of her Division II conference last year from NCAA. So those 3 kids have already proven they can play at a high level, you know, and those kids, especially Deidre and Nicolette, they've played at conferences and played against big schools. You know, when we roll into K-State and A&M, there's not going to be no shock and awe for them. They've seen it. Now, unfortunately, Nicolette will not play till second semester due to some transfer eligibility rules, and she'll play December 16th. So we'll have to go our first 6 or 7 games without her. Well, but in a way, that's a blessing, because it's just going to make other kids have to step up and pick up that slack until she can be a part of the group on the floor.
What do you feel like makes OCU unique?
You know, OCU has a long-standing tradition of success in athletics. You know, whether it be women's basketball, you can go and look at every sport on this campus, and you can go find championships, whether it be national championships, conference championships, regional championships. And this school, unlike most schools, is not specialized in one certain sport. The tradition of OCU and its athletics is well known, and the success of all of our sports make, I think, this a special place. And we hope that athletics continues to be an important part of this university's mission.
All right, we've been talking to women's basketball coach Rob Edmisson. You keep up with the stars on OCUsports.com. That's it for this week's edition of the OCU Athletics Update. Check back every week for all the latest in OCU sports.